In today's episode, I'll be giving my reaction, review, and recap for the third and final season of Netflix's German show, Dark. Let's dive right into Dark Season 3 reaction, review, and recap. Do something, man. People are questioning you. Shut up. Shut up. Okay, yep, do that. Sure, guys. Stupid and dumb. Just an idiot. Get your shit together, son. Fuck it. I loved it. Welcome to the
Yeah.
Dub Cast. Man, season 3 is over and the show is done. A light 26 episodes total for the show. Third and second season only being 8 episodes. Third season had slightly longer episodes, which was totally fine. Initial reactions, man, they finished this show off right. I got this show top 5. I got it number 5 all time. Maybe one day I'll do a top 10 TV show, so I don't want to reveal my top 5, but I got Dark in the top 5. Like, I will admit I was a little bit concerned. I mentioned in previous reviews I had a coworker tell me she didn't really like season 2 that much and probably didn't even watch season 3 because it got too out of hand, but I think this is sort of easy to follow. Like, I don't think it was the most impossible thing in the world. I was alerted to, clock in for this season, and I was clocked in, and it felt, you know, easy enough. With the stuff at the end of season 2, we go at the end of season 1, we go from different timelines to adding more timelines, adding 2052, adding freaking 1921. Then in season 3, we're adding different worlds. I'm like, oh fuck, man, if we're fucking in all different worlds and we don't know where we are and stuff like that, it's like we're gonna be fucked, man. But luckily, it wasn't that hard to follow because they only kept it down to 2 worlds. I mean, the ending I think is beautiful. They don't cut corners to get their best characters in there. Arguably, I think spoilers for the end, but that group at the end of the table, and at the table is like there's not really a bunch of likable characters in there. Because everyone else had some association with Jonas or Martha and had to go. But yeah, I mean, I thought the dynamic of this season was pretty interesting, where you have Adam versus Eve. Throwback to the Bible verses of Adam and Eve, and you know their kind of pseudo battle where they're fighting against each other, but they don't know how to do it. I loved. We'll talk about it more, but I loved Claudia being the answer to the loophole and stopping the loophole, and that cuts her out of it, man. She's not even at the end, I don't think. Wow, it's a lot to digest. I think they ended this show pretty well. Season 3 was pretty strong across the board. No really boring episodes. Everything gets explained pretty well. I'm not asking a bunch of questions. Maybe why did Trante drop his pants that one time in the woods? That doesn't really get answered. It kind of gets answered, but that's really. And what happened to Wooler's Eye, man? They're fucking trolls for that shit. They're trolling on that. Like every TV time, every episode Wooler's in, all the comments are like, "What happened to Wooler's eye? What happened to Wooler's eye?" And then he's about to tell the story at the end, what happened to his eye, and then he dies. Or he doesn't die, but the show just ends. He gets interrupted by a freaking strike of lightning. Yeah, I mean, this season was pretty good. Like, I'll be honest, there were. I mean, I just said it was kind of easy to follow, but there were confusing parts, like when you add in the timelines and then alternate universes. Also, there is one big question that I'm. Maybe that makes sense though. We'll get to it maybe, but there's 3 different versions of Jonas in one world. There's 3 different versions of Jonas in the other worlds. Like, it got a little hectic on that aspect, so that part was just slightly hard to follow. Um, but yeah, I thought this was a very good show. Like I've said in other reviews, this show being in German makes you lock in. Like, I was taking notes. I'm staring at the computer right now. I was taking notes like this. Like, I couldn't look away for 1 second on the show. Kept me wrapped into the end. Time travel felt right. Like, this is a top 5 show of all time. Surprising to say, because Netflix doesn't have the best track record, but I would recommend this show to everyone if you're interested in this like time travel world. And it's a really hard show to explain to people though why it's so good. It's like, what is that show about? It's like, oh, a kid gets lost and then they try and like do a bunch of stuff to help find him and get back. But yeah, I mean, this flushed out characters. I hated Hannah as much as the next person so much. I loved Jonas, Claudia, Martha, even like crazy. Great show. Can't say enough good things about it. I wonder how a rewatch would do. I don't rewatch shows, so I'll probably never know. Um, But I feel like on a rewatch, you could kind of put things together and be like, wow, that was really good. So yeah, we're gonna do an episode by episode breakdown. I'm trying to think if there's any more overall things of the season. No, not really. So let's dive right into season 3, episode 1. Episode 1 is titled Deja-Vu. We begin this third and last season with a classic quote. We usually get a little quote card before the season starts. This season starts with the quote of, "Man can do what he wills, but he cannot wills what he wills." And I mean, these are always kind of a riddle to figure out. So man can do what he wills. That one's pretty obvious, but he cannot will what he wills. So he cannot do what he can't really know what he's doing. Maybe this is kind of calling out the Adam and Jonas storyline of season 3, if I had to guess. But but he cannot will what he wills. So he can't do you can't do everything. Maybe one of those two has got to be right. Nonetheless, we start the actual season off with these 3 men that dominate much of my brain throughout the first half of this season until we find out who they are. But there's a younger kid, there's a middle-aged man, and then there's an older man, all with the same marking above the lip. And so they're in Adam's room. We've seen Adam fucking stare at this painting like a million times of the pig. And I mean, we'll talk about Eve and her painting, but it's like her paintings. But I mean, I don't know what Adam really saw in this painting, to be honest. I'm sure I'm missing a big symbolism there, but these men have had enough. They burn it all down, his whole room and layer. So whatever timeline in, wherever they are, they're getting rid of that shit. And they all have that same mark, so that's 3 generations of the same person. We figure that out pretty quickly. Meanwhile, remember at the end of season 2, Jonas was trying to save his version of Martha in his universe, and then a different universe version of Martha came in and took him to her world. So they time travel to what they believe is the day that it all started, when they first met, and this is when the worlds form a knot that is intertwined, and then she dips. A lot of talk through this season of what's the original knot, what's the origin point of this storyline, but we don't really find that out until much later into the season, so there's a lot of these kind of fake outs here and there. But yeah, I mean, this Martha character I found pretty interesting throughout the season of, we kind of see her as this innocent, more version of Martha that we actually know, but then she turns into this like time traveler Eve version of herself pretty quickly. And Jonas, it's kind of weird because they're like both being kind of puppeteered by a mysterious hand, and we don't really know what that person's objective is, or what those people's objectives are, but we'll find out a little bit more. So yeah, right off the rip, they're gone, from obviously the apocalypse happening in Jonas's original world. So this episode, we're mostly hanging out in Martha's alternate universe, which is interesting to see these like different versions of the character. It's funny to see, how they're the same and how they're different. So of course, in this universe, Magnus is still with Francesca. They are sleeping together as always, before he has to go downstairs, and he's all tatted up in this universe. So everyone has a little bit of different qualities about them. Magnus is like kind of like I don't want to say goth, but he's got like dark black hair instead of his usual blonde hair, and he's tatted up, got tattoos all over. And just like we started off the first episode in season 1 with Ulrich sneaking out of Hannah's house, Francesca sneaks out of Magnus's house, and this is a little bit more consequential considering they're still in high school, but like, I don't know, same kind of concept there, except, well, they're cheating. At least Hannah and Ulrich were cheating. Well, Hannah, I don't know how long Michael was dead at that point, but they're just high school kids, trying to hide that they're together. So kind of the same arc of or same messaging of the first episode. Meanwhile, big reveal of this universe, Ulrich and Hannah are together. They're dating, and Hannah is pregnant with a child, and right off the bat, you can tell something's going on here. I mean, Lord forbid you have to be in a freaking relationship with Hannah for an extended period of time, but Ulrich leaving the house. He doesn't. She says, "Love you, see you later," and then he doesn't say anything back. Like, I don't know how it's not that hard, or how it's that hard for people to see through this. Like when you say that to someone and they don't say it back, you're cooked, bro. I just felt like, that should be an obvious sign that something's wrong in the relationship. It's pretty easy to say. Just say two words, especially if you're together, seemingly married, or at least together for a couple of years, having a kid together. Shouldn't be that hard to, just say I love you back. And so the fact that it is, you know, I thought that was an interesting dynamic where, we kind of see Ulrich in Jonas's original universe gravitate towards Hannah, but as soon as he gets kind of too close, he pulls away. And then obviously the stuff with Mikkel and everything happening, he kind of pulls away even more. So I thought that was interesting that he's kind of doing the same thing here, just in a different context. I think that's kind of the point of it. But interesting start off to this alternate universe relationship between Ulrich and Hannah. So Martha, there is no Jonas in this universe, in Martha's alternate universe, or alternate Martha's universe, which is, I guess, makes sense because there's no Martha in Jonas's universe now, so that's how they're tied together. So these like two main characters in the different universes. But the difference is Martha was actually born in Jonas's universe, just got shot by Adam. Jonas was never even born in Martha's universe. So instead, she's with a kid named Killian, who, looking back on the rest of the season, was pretty irrelevant throughout this season, but he is at least the person who is dating Martha early on in the season. Helge, of course, is doing the same thing he was doing at the beginning of season 1 in Jonas's universe, saying it will happen again, but in this universe, instead of having his half his face beat up, he's got an eye swollen shut. So we can tell that, Ulrich's going to beat the crap out of him again, just doing it a different way. So it's kind of refreshing to go back to the beginning, like remember how we all got here, but just doing it in a different context and, different little deviations from the plotline. So I did enjoy this first episode. Continuing on, everything mostly is just happening with slight differences. So Jonas enters Martha's class in school. Martha has no idea who she is. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough for Jonas in this universe. Hannah is talking to Katerina. So obviously we know Hannah and Katerina are not the biggest fans of each other, mostly one way, with Katerina not really enjoying what Hannah's doing to her relationship and her family. But they're still cordial. In this universe, a lot more cordial, actually. Well, not really, because Hannah, or Ulrich, was still with Katerina, left her to go with Hannah, so there is still some hostility there, but, they have at least a communicating relationship. And then Alexander is giving the schedules for the nuclear power plant to Charlotte, so we kind of saw this in the beginning of season 1 as well, where Charlotte and Ulrich were looking into the nuclear power plant originally, and then they asked them to give up those schedules. And then, eventually there's the Warren stuff, but that doesn't really play out until the coming season. So back to the Martha and Jonas of it all. Obviously, she doesn't know who he is. Hannah has no idea who he is either. So the love of his life in his other universe and his own mother in this universe have no idea who he is. So at this point, if you're Jonas, you got to be pretty panicked. Granted, it's probably better than getting blown to bits by a nuclear apocalypse, but yeah, I mean, it's tough for him. It's tough for Jonas in this universe. He's kind of shell-shocked walking around. He doesn't really know what's going on because he's not a part of this universe. So I guess there was a little bit alteration in Mikkel, mostly because obviously Mikkel goes back in time, then becomes his father, and it's like a loop, but there is no Mikkel. Mikkel doesn't go back in time in this universe. They don't have a lot of things in this universe, which maybe we'll get to, but continuing on, Ulrich, of course, can't stay in a relationship in any universe and not cheat, so he is going to be cheating with Charlotte in this world, and then so Charlotte and him are both still in the police force in this alternate universe. They're in like the storage closet, touching each other up, about to make out, and then they get interrupted by Wooler, and Wooler in this universe is missing an arm instead of an eye, and we'll definitely I think I already mentioned it at the top, but yeah. We'll never find out what happened to his eye anyway, so what does it matter? But I don't know if Wooler is like keen on the fact that they're probably, getting it on, but tough scene for Ulrich because he just is a fundamental cheater, because even in different universes he's doing it. So back with Magnus and Francesca, they meet in the bunker. Obviously Francesca is still Peter's daughter in this universe as well, and so they have access to the bunker, Helge's wood cabin, because Helge is Peter's father. and they're going to meet up there to have sex in the bunker because having sneaky sex in the bedroom was not enough. So they have to come out here and do it in the bunker. I guess it makes sense. You're wild kids, the kids these days. Am I right? And the twist on this relationship with, or at least the twist on Francesca, is she is deaf in this universe. She signed to him during this interaction. So obviously we know Elizabeth is deaf in Jonas's original universe. In this one, Francesca is deaf. So that's an interesting turn of events there. Back to the household of Francesca, actually, who's in the living room, but Uncle Helge. And Elizabeth is coming home from school there, sees him there, and she speaks to him out loud, which is interesting to hear Elizabeth's voice because we mostly hear from her through sign language. But Helge keeps saying it will happen again, and then he keeps doing his TikTok thing. So we kind of get the gist of it. It's the same thing happening over and over again. Helge knew something from '86. He's now going to say it when he's in his dementative state. This time to Elizabeth. We'll see what everything happens with that. Sad note on this one, or sad note in this universe as well. Regina has passed away as Jonas sees her gravestone, and then we see Peter is the priest. So maybe no Noah in this universe either. So kind of an interesting turn of events there, where it seems like they kind of cut some of the big juicy players out of this equation with no Jonas, no Noah. Maybe there is an alternate version of Noah in this universe, I forget, but Peter's taken up the role of priest. I don't know what his original job is in the Jonas universe, maybe like a psychologist or something. But yeah, Peter as the priest, I thought was super interesting considering what we know Noah had to have done during this time in seasons 1 and 2. So is Peter like that in this universe? No, he's just dressed up as a priest to scare you. So back to our original trio of the boy and the two older men from the beginning. This one with this thing on their face. They approach the leader of the nuclear power plant in 1987 and ask him for the master key. Once he gives it up, they take the master key, which actually this is a full loop onto episode 8, I believe, where we see what comes of this, but they're just on like their own solo side mission throughout throughout the season, which I respect. But yeah, they've picked up the nuclear power plant key, and then right after they get it, the middle-aged man who seems to be the main character of this trio, in between both the ages, kills the leader of the nuclear power plant. So they ain't leaving no stone unturned, and we'll definitely get more of that throughout the season. But right off the bat, you're like, who the fuck are these guys, and what do they want? Because they're just walking around killing everybody and taking mad evidence. Jonas is now backed with, well, he's still in the same alternate Martha's universe, and he starts talking to the youngest version of her that doesn't know anything that's about to happen, and she says she has seen him before in a Deja-Vu, but Mikhail is not with them as he's old enough to look after himself. So this is like the nighttime meetup that they had before Mikhail ends up disappearing in Jonas's original universe. In this universe, there is no one that needs to look after him. He's old enough to look after himself, so he doesn't come out on the late night trip to the caves. So right off the bat, that's where things kind of split up differently, because that means no Jonas, so we understand that pretty easily. And so Martha in this universe has the same thing that happened to Jonas, where a woman was holding out her hand, trying to talk to her. Kind of this like muddy, scary, bloody version person that I thought was Mikhail in season 1. I need to go back and watch that scene now that I've actually watched the show, but felt like that was Mikhail for Jonas. So maybe it was like, I guess it wouldn't be Katharina for Martha. I don't know, but it was like the weird version of her. Maybe it was like Adam, who was doing that to Jonas in season 1. Anyways, same kind of thing happens to Martha in this universe, and then seemingly the whole group of them, which is like the same group of people, Francesca, Magnus, minus Mikhail, plus Killian, it looks like Killian is gone. But nope, everyone made it out, so I was like expecting someone to be gone because someone has to start the string of events. But no, everyone's going to make it out of the initial disappearance, including a sleeping Mikhail that Jonas is watching as he heads back to Martha's place. So Mikhail makes it out, never even was in it, and nobody goes missing. So weird turn of events there. Kind of nice how they left it wide open so they could just go different ways. about that. But yeah, no repeat event from Jonas's universe. So that's our first little deviation of like the main timeline. And so they all make it to the bunker. They hide out in the bunker while, the dead, not the dead, but the caves do their thing. The lights go out. It's scary times in Winden. So they're hiding it all out in the bunker. And then who do they see come through the portal while they're in the bunker? It's Mads Nielsen. Same kind of story from Jonas's universe, disappeared in 86. Ulrich's been looking for him. Well, here he is, dead in a portal after the kids hide out in there. So Mads has like the worst story of everyone. He just dies every time. Also, Eric, I think, has disappeared in this universe. But yeah, sucks to see Mads dead again. He seems like a good kid. Jonas is confronted by an older woman in the woods, I believe, and she tells him Mikael won't travel back, become Jonas's father, but the world is still cursed because of Jonas. And yes, it is an older version of Martha named Eve, or I don't know if this was the middle-aged version of Martha or just the older version of Martha. Either way, I think there was a lot of hostility between Adam and Eve. They try to blame each other for everything that happened, but it was neither of them. It's just, both, or it's both of them kind of, and it's also neither of them. It's one of those situations, but we'll learn a lot about that later on as the season goes through. So Martha, meanwhile, where did she disappear to early on from when she was talking to Jonas? She's now at the Tanna House property in 1888. She sees an older version of Jonas there, the version I like to call the stranger version, and she says that she is not Martha. Obviously, stranger Jonas was simping for her and being a creep and sitting in her bed and shit. So she's like, I'm not Martha, but he's like, I know you're Martha. I know what fucking Martha looks like. But she clarifies, not your Martha. So this has got to get Stranger Jonas thinking about everything going on. But she says she came here to help find the origin, the one thing that is the beginning of everything in both worlds. So yeah, that's basically describing this whole first episode, just fucking whirlwind. And that wraps up episode 1. Favorite of this episode I'm giving to Jonas, trying to figure everything out and taking us through it so we can at least try to understand. Also the only character we truly know at the time of everything he's been through, what he'll become and everything. I don't know, it was a tough episode to pick a favorite character when we're in like an alternate universe learning everyone's characteristics in that universe. Least favorite I gave to Ulrich. Even in a different universe, Brutch still cheating on his wife / significant other. Come on, Ulrich. You don't have to cheat, man. So that wraps up episode 1. Episode 2 is titled The Survivors. Classic goat show. We start this episode out with the new version of Martha in the alternate universe having the same dream that we saw in season 2 over and over again, I think 3 times. One more time for the road. Martha and Jonas making love. This time there's no quote, we are perfect for each other, never let anyone tell you anything otherwise or whatever. Not this time around. And we see the older version of Jonas, the stranger version of Jonas as I refer to him, has the letter from Martha. Now we don't really know what that letter contains. I don't think I've mentioned the letter on the pod, but it just was written at some point by the like semi-old version of Martha. We'll see what happens. Kind of like a letter from Mikael in my opinion, but we'll get into that later when the letter resurfaces. So meanwhile, Magnus, Francesca, and Bartosz are in this place with Martha, but it's not their Martha. So episode 1 was kind of just revealing that little alternate reality. Episode 2, we pick up with the events of what actually happened at the end of season 2 with the Jonas versions of Jonas's universe's version of Magnus, Francesca, and Bartosz. Remember, they were saved by stranger Jonas in the bunker with Elizabeth, Peter, and no, they weren't saved with them. I don't know. I forget who was saved with who. Doesn't matter. They're here now with the alternate version of Martha, but it's not their Martha. They don't know what is going on really, and it's kind of sad that we never really learn Bartosz, Francesca, and Magnus's like opinions on things. It seems like they're kind of just they're kind of just pawns in the game. Like they don't really have much opinions, which sucks because it's mostly just between Adam and Eve. But it is what it is. So meanwhile, another character who we saw make it out of the apocalypse in 2020 is Katharina. She wakes up in Mikkel's bed in 1987. So obviously she was alerted of the fact that Mikkel is still alive and is in 1987. He's going to be in 1987, come back in 2019, or not 20. Well, he's going to disappear in 2019, come back in 86, grow up, marry. Which must be crazy actually. That like I don't think I fully grasped Michael just like having to be around his mom and dad at points and like not showing any reaction. They probably thought he was weird as fuck. I think they did think he was weird as fuck. But Katharina is waking up in his bed hoping to find him in 1987. So in the present day, this is hard to get into. So Jana presses Trante for sleeping with Claudia while Mads went missing. So obviously we know there's a well-documented history of Trante and Claudia sleeping together. You know, Claudia kind of has like a weird love of him in some way that, you know, can't explain love all the time. So I guess when Mads went missing, that's when Trante was sleeping around with Claudia in their marriage. So Jana's not happy with that happening. And then Claudia just randomly goes missing in 1987. So we know where Claudia ends up. She's just going to become a traveler basically on her own, in her own party. There's the Adam party, there's the Eve party, and then there's just Claudia is like doing her own thing. But she goes missing in 87. No one really knows where she goes. Explains how Alexander moves up the nuclear power plant. Why Regina is like so shocked to see her, etc. Bunch of stuff that happens, but we'll get into that soon. So I mentioned some of the survivors of the apocalypse. Claudia brought Regina with her to the post-apocalyptic world and is still taking care of her in 2052, I believe it is, or 2051, when, you know, Elizabeth's running around, running a freaking army in the apocalypse. But so that's good, nice to see from Claudia. Like, she had one goal, was to get Regina out, take care of her. So that's nice to see their relationship continue to happen for a little bit at least. So Peter and Elizabeth were two of the other survivors as well. And, you know, it seems like every day they're going to look for Francesca and Charlotte. There's no official word. It's kind of like one of those sad apocalypse movies where there's just like pictures of people on the wall, dead bodies coming in every day. Peter makes sure they go to the station to see if it's Francesca or Charlotte. It sucks when you don't have definitive answers, like either alive or dead, and then you're just like, maybe they're alive, maybe they're dead. And not seeing their picture every day, it's like they're out there somewhere, but, you know, they're really not. And, you know, Elizabeth does get frustrated with this later in the season, but someone is following them around. We kind of know who that is, but we'll keep it anonymous for now. So meanwhile, with the group in 1920 or maybe the 1880s, they don't believe the new Martha, the alternate version of Martha, and there's an old man there who is upset that the machines aren't running yet. He's blind. I believe this is Tannhouse's like grandfather or great grandfather. It's the Tannhouse place, so, you know, he's having him here working, trying to make the machines run. You know, Tannhouses, I guess, will always just have that in their blood of trying to make things work. I don't know. This guy's not really that important to the story, so we'll keep it moving. So Katharina, back to Katharina in 1987. She sees herself as a teenager interacting with Ulrich, and she sees somebody else following around Ulrich and her younger self, teenager Hannah. She tells, this is one of my favorite scenes of the season, just because, you know, fuck Hannah. She tells a teenage Hannah to stay away from Mikkel and Ulrich. Really, like, you know, this is, we've seen a lot of like the, you know, the classic example I always bring up is the Don Cheadle talking about, you know, doing the like killing baby Thanos and then stopping the snap from ever happening. But there's a lot of that happening in this show Dark, where you have Ulrich trying to go back to kill baby Helge, Katharina, you know, screaming in the face of baby or teenage Hannah. I'm surprised she didn't try and make a move on her and kill her, but, you know, maybe Katharina has more sensitivity and I'm trying to look at the word like competence. I don't know. But that was a great scene of Katharina confronting a teenage Hannah who's just like, what are you talking about? I have no idea who you're even talking about or who you are. Meanwhile, Trante is asking some details in 87 around what happened to Claudia. So obviously we know from earlier this episode she just went missing, and from basically the whole show they kind of alluded to her just being missing. So obviously Tronte and Claudia had a weird relationship, some love in there though, and Tronte is asking about her, where did you see her last? To the nuclear power plant people, was she acting weird or anything? And so he finds out some details about what happened prior to her disappearance. Back to Peter and Charlotte, or Peter and Elizabeth in the future. Peter is monitoring that wall, like I said, for the deaths of Francesca and Charlotte on the wall. And it's confirmed that Clausen and Wooler are among the dead. So unfortunate for Clausen. Like, I didn't expect him to be back, but I think he was a super fun season 2 character. His story kind of goes tunnel vision on Alexander, but I really did enjoy the energy Clausen brought. Kind of an outsider. We don't really see outsiders come to Winden in this whole entire show. So I love seeing Clausen. It was obvious he was dead because he was basically at the point of the thing. Wooler is kind of just a nice side character who has an interesting story about his eye that they're never going to tell us, but we also kind of figured that he would be among the dead. So RIP to those two in Jonas's universe. Super awkward car ride between Regina and Tronte, where I'm trying to even remember the context of this. I think Tronte picked her up off the side of the street, and it was just like, do you know where your mom is? You can tell they kind of have a weird dynamic because Regina probably knows that Tronte is sleeping with her mom. Very weird dynamics. I haven't trusted Tronte throughout this whole entire show. I think something's still up with Tronte. I don't really know his story, but yeah, poor Regina continues. Meanwhile, we find the stalker of Elizabeth and Peter. It's, you guessed it, young Noah. Young Noah is the most Noah will have this season, really, as he's kind of just trying to find love with Elizabeth and help her out. And in this first interaction, he asks Elizabeth for food and says he will protect her after Peter gets killed. And so that's kind of scary for Elizabeth, like, your father's going to die type thing, but it does come true. And they have a nice, cute way of communicating through the notepad. I do find it a little bit weird that Elizabeth is probably like 11 maybe, and young Noah looks like he's like 20, so there is like a weird time thing there. But in the apocalypse, I guess anything goes. But I'm putting a little sauce on that. I don't know the age difference there, but I'm not one to judge age differences, but that feels a little bit of a weird dynamic to me, to be honest. Meanwhile, the blind guy back at the workshop with the crew of new travelers, and stranger Jonas in 1888 knows what sic mundas creatas est is. Obviously, that's like the catchphrase of the travelers, so he will basically make the travelers. This is where the travelers will basically come to fruition with this group of people, and they'll add some more people. But Jonas is Adam, Bartos, we see him in the pictures of the travelers. Francesca and Magnus, obviously, we know are already travelers, so that's where that maybe started with that phrase in the Tannenhaus. So everything kind of comes back to the Tannenhaus family, which is a little bit nuts there. So, Katharina, back in 1987, talks to her mother at the Institute for the Insane. She obviously is trying to go see her husband, Ulrich, who has been held captive. And, Ulrich's storyline, I feel like, kind of dips off, where we just don't see him as much after season 1. We thought he was one of the stronger season 1 characters. Nonetheless, it's a weird talking to your mom when she doesn't know you're her mom and you're like the same age as her. So that was always weird seeing those types of conversations between Katharina and her mother. But she does get to see Ulrich and swears to get Ulrich out of there, which is nice because I do want to see this version of Ulrich, make it, but it's not looking great, boys and girls. So the trio of the generational men, as we know, the people with the lip, make their way to Claudia's office. Obviously, Claudia has disappeared in 1986, and they're doing their own snooping and research of their own. And who's in the way but Claudia's secretary? So another death in this episode. R.I.P. to Claudia's secretary. Was just trying to get her to go to that meeting with the French people. Kind of a nothing character, but this trio, I'm scared as fuck of who this is. I'm still scared of these people. Damn, like, you're just walking around killing people, and you have 3 generations right there. The boys watching them do it all, and the old man, like, the fuck, man. That trio was scary, man. Claudia never said to Regina who the father was of her, so we don't really know who it is. Obviously, it could potentially be Tronte, who, seems like they've been sleeping together for probably 40 years at that point of Regina's birth. Who is told, Tronte is told by Jana to decide between her and Claudia. There's a really nice scene coming up. I think it's in the next couple episodes about their youth little trio. But yeah, that's pretty nice coming from someone who knows you're actively cheating on her. She tells you to decide. Like, at least she's not yelling at you. Like, I think that's very. I don't want to say like I'll just say it was a nice thing to do, because you could be a lot meaner when you find out someone's cheating on you and you know that they've been together for a really long time. So good job by Jana. Never really was offended by anything Jana did. Like, I feel like Jana is one of the better characters in the show, just morally. Anyways, Tronte made it to the future. This was super confusing, man, where Tronte is now like a traveler. He's in the 2052 universe with Regina, and the one where Claudia makes it out. And then on top of all that, Regina's hooked up to all these beds and like barely staying alive in the apocalyptic world. And then Tronte suffocates her. Like, fuck Tronte, bro. Tronte might be up there with Hannah. Awful, man. So R.I.P. to Jonas' version of Regina, and she said it was the only way to save you. Bitch, who said that? Obviously it was Claudia, but like, damn, Claudia. I'm trying to like, if she's just resigned to her. Well, I guess it made. Oh, okay, now the dots are connecting in my head, where she probably had to have someone kill Regina. Obviously, she's not going to do it herself, and that will help her get the focus she needs in order to stop the loophole and stop everything. So that makes sense to me. But when you're watching this initially, it's like, fuck, man, Tronte's a piece of shit. And I still think Tronte's a piece of shit. I don't know. I feel like he's, I don't like Tronte. Meanwhile, Charlotte, obviously we saw her reach her hand out to the future version of Elizabeth. She makes it to 2053 with the older version of her daughter as they embrace. So that was nice to see Charlotte still alive. Charlotte's one of my favorite characters as well. So good to see her and Elizabeth back together, as Charlotte is both the daughter and mother of Elizabeth, because, the show. Anyways, classic montages start hitting from here on out, the near end of episode montages. So we'll just go through them real quick. If there's anything of note, I'll comment on it. But Katharina departs from Ulrich. Obviously, she'll come back and try and save him at some point. 86, Claudia finds Regina dead in the future. Super sad. She doesn't know yet that she will need to do this in order to stop the loophole. And, there's a good Regina tidbit actually at the end of the show, so we'll get to that when we get to it. But sad to see Regina go. Now she's dead in both universes. 1986 version of Alexander supports Regina as Tronte and Yana sleep on the couch. Elizabeth keeps looking at what Noah wrote as he tries to do something in the cave, so he's trying to open up the passage in the cave in the future. Bartos shows Martha something in the building as Jonas looks in her room. So nothing really too important there, but, kind of just moving the pieces there. And we find out Tannhaus is the only one left of a secret society. Jonas has been in this place in the future, the Tannhaus building in 1888, not now, and Adam killed Martha. The new Martha tells Bartos that Jonas is Adam, so this kind of turns Bartos off to Jonas in the future, where he knows now that Jonas will become Adam. So pretty impactful scene there where, they kind of figure out everything about Jonas and they don't really trust him anymore, at least on Bartos' end. It seems like Francesca and Magnus lean towards Jonas and don't really care about the Adam stuff, but I don't know. Like I mentioned before, that their side of the story is not really relevant or explained that well. So Eve finally is talking to Jonas at the end of the episode, saying that all events will happen, but not in the same way. Ending on the same moment, everyone will die. The apocalypse will happen in her world in 3 days' time, just like we saw it happen in Jonas' universe. So that's where we leave off episode 2. My favorite from episode 2 was Katharina clocking the younger version of Hannah, went back to save Ulrich. I got faith she'll break out Ulrich and get him out of there. He deserves happiness. At least at the time I did. Least favorite, kind of alluded throughout the whole episode, Tronte. Bro snuck into 2020. aka, well, maybe this what me. I might have capped this whole episode about saying they were in 2020. I think Claudia's in 2020 with Regina, because they get out of the cave. So I think that's 2020, not 2052. My bad. So Tronte snuck into 2020 and killed his own daughter, so he was able to get out of the apocalypse. But I was a little bit wrong about that. We'll find out. We'll get into that later. And then he's mad suspect about this episode. I just don't like the vibe Tronte gives out. So that's where we'll wrap up episode 2. Episode 3 is titled Adam and Eva. And I've been calling Eva Eve throughout this whole thing. Forgive me for that. It's Eva. So we start this episode out with a man who's got Traveler drip on. We kind of know what the Travelers look like, what they rock in the Sigmundus Creatus Est. And he is talking to a boy with blue eyes. He has the watch that says for Charlotte. And then all of a sudden, there's an older man in the same wagon as him. And guess who pulls up? It's the trio of dangerous men. The kid, the old man, and the regular man with a cut above the lip. And so we learned that this is old Tana House. This is like the oldest version of Tana House. And he has a telegram to tell the world about the travelers. That is not going to help his case scenario. I think that's why they came for him, and to grab that watch as well. So I kind of have respect for the trio because they're kind of just coming in and like doing the dirty work and cleaning up, as I put it before, I think. But I mean, we see them just like tying up loose ends throughout the season, and yeah, I mean, it makes sense that they're probably in the middle of something that's been going on. Like, they're probably in season 1 and 2, and we don't even know it. They're probably impacting things. So they're definitely scary motherfuckers. The middle guy's always got his like garrote, this thin ass garrote that like, oh, I was thinking about that. That thing's around your neck. You got no chance, man. That's slicing right through your fingers. Oh, God, I hope no one does that to me. I know there's like the TikTok videos if you have your head against the chair in a car, and then you have to like do something. I don't know what it is. Self-defense is worth something out there, but I don't know. Different day or different podcast for a different day. So old Martha is talking once again to Jonas, I believe, and she compares her and Jonas to Adam and Eve. She says there's a glitch in the Matrix. This is like one of their I don't know what the word is, but like they just say this all the time, like we're perfect for each other. They always say that, and then they say the glitch in the Matrix. That's one of their favorite things. So of course, old Martha is still saying that they need to save both worlds. Yeah, so we see Adam just kind of wants to destroy everything and save his own world, and then Eva wants to save both the worlds. So we're like kind of led to believe that Eva's the better of the two, but it's not by much because they're both kind of controlling, putting their hands in everything. And it's kind of hard to distinguish who we're actually supposed to be rooting for. It's Claudia, none of these idiots. So moving on, we have Bartos. He, of course, is still at the Tana House building in 1880-something. The years, sorry guys, there's 6 timelines, fucking 3 alternate universes. If I get a year wrong, sorry. But Bartos is still with that crew at the old Tana House place, trying to make the machine. Francesca, Magnus, Stranger Jonas, and New Martha. So he's getting pretty upset with the stranger version of Jonas for not telling the group about how Martha died and that he's really Adam. And so Bartos reveals this to everyone, which doesn't really, I don't think it does much because I don't really know Adam at this point. Like, they just got transported from the apocalypse into 19 or 18 something. It's like, I don't think they're really like, oh, Adam, but yeah. Well, I guess the fact that he is Adam and he killed Martha, like, that is pretty fucked up. And that's something that it's hard for me to, like, I don't know. Fate is something that I think about a lot, right? Where you're like, if I knew when I was gonna die, could I do anything to change it? And you can't. It's fate, but it's like, is fate real? Maybe that's a different episode as well. But like, this episode this episode and season and whole show makes you think about stuff like that. So that's what is good about the show. But it's also like, if I knew I became Adam, I'd just kill myself, which I guess he can't. So really a bunch of psychological stuff going on. As a fucking ad just popped up in my notes. Sorry about that. Nonetheless, yeah, so Bartos reveals to the group, so now they all know how Martha died, shot by Adam before they left, and that Jonas will eventually turn himself into Adam. Meanwhile, alternate Ulrich goes back to his old house in the alternate universe to question Martha and Magnus on what they saw in the bunker. So, I don't, like, the whole Ulrich of it all in the alternate universe is like, it's kind of weak sauce. Like, in the real Jonas universe, him going and chasing after Helge because he believes Helge did something to his son, that makes sense to me. That's like, okay, you're going after your kid, you gotta like watch your kid, protect what's best for him, go after the people who pursued him, that type of thing. But in this one, it's just like, oh, they were in a bunker and they had to run from something scary, and it's like, now I'm gonna like crash out of that. So I like regular Ulrich over alternate universe Ulrich, to be honest. Yeah, I thought alternate Ulrich's a mess, bro. He's like cheating on. First of all, seemingly he's cheating on Katharina with Hannah. Then he's pregnant with Hannah, or has a baby with Hannah, and he's cheating on her with fucking Charlotte. And now he's like crashing out. It's like, dude, get a grip, man. So yeah, they're not gonna tell him much. They're fucking teenage kids who are having sex, Magnus, and sneaking out of the house, having his girlfriend sneak out of the house. They ain't telling you shit, bud. Meanwhile, alternate Hannah leans in for a hug with Charlotte, and she's been doing the Catherine of it all and doing some investigating. She's found a hair in the house, I believe, by this point, and she leans in for the hug with Charlotte, gets a little sniff, and yeah, she seemingly smells Ulrich on her, knowing that he's cheated on her now. So what's worse than a spiteful Hannah who does the same exact thing in the other universe, but she switches up her narrative this time. But yeah, I mean, that's a cool way of doing it, I guess. If you're pregnant, I learned today, actually, you have heightened sense of everything. So makes sense that she's, smells Ulrich right on Charlotte. So bad news for those two, Charlotte and Ulrich. But we'll have to see what Hannah gets into after that. Moving on, we have Jonas. He needs to show alternate Martha her future. So obviously this version of Martha in the alternate universe doesn't know shit about shit. She's like basically in the Jonas arc, like through season 1 and 2, where he's like learning about everything. So she knows what must be done, and she will follow. And obviously she will follow because she ends up becoming Eva. And yeah, I mean, it's pretty sad stuff to see. I think the story of Martha and Eva is, I mean, yes, Martha and Eva, just Adam and Eva total is like they both get lost in their own ways, trying to control the universe. It's pretty sad. It's a pretty sad story where they were lovers at first. Now they're like full-on enemies. It's super sad, man. This was a tough ending to the show, which we'll get to in a bit. But meanwhile, the old Tannhaus father tried. So we get a little backstory, and this is actually going to be very important. So the old Tannhaus father, our original guy who's been working in the shop for years making those machines, tried to bring someone back to life and thought that time travel would solve everything. So Martha has to prove to stranger Jonas that she can be trusted. She shows him the machine that she used to travel there, that little like grenade thing that's crazy. And he's like, I've never seen one of these before. And then she only has one little vial of dark matter left to travel, so I'm wondering if she'll use it. Of course she's going to use it instantly, but yeah, the relationship, of course, between Stranger Jonas and Martha is still just as weird as last season, where he's like noticeably older, probably 15 years older at least, but just clearly like still fawning over her. So that's a thing, his own aunt, I guess. But meanwhile, the trio is working with old Martha, Eva, to preserve the knot. So this is the unnamed trio at this point. The men with the lip embedment, I don't know, cut, I don't know, scar. And so they need to preserve the knot, and Jonas's Martha must die so that all the others can live. The beginning and the end is the nuclear plant volume system. So we've kind of gotten the basis that they've mentioned this a couple times, that it's probably the nuclear power plant that's the beginning of it all. Obviously it causes a fucking apocalypse in both universes. So we saw them pick up the keys early on from Claudia's secretary, so definitely something to watch moving forward. And I'm kind of surprised that they're on team anybody. Like, it seems like they were kind of just doing their own thing, but it makes sense they were getting orders from everybody because they just like show up barely to say like 2 sentences and just kill people. So Eva's kind of like giving them the henchman role almost, of just like doing all the dirty work of it. But yeah, it's Martha must die. Sad. Meanwhile, alternate Charlotte is doing her own investigation like she was in season 1 of our show in our universe with Jonas, and she finds another medallion with a 1 on it, similar to the one that she found with Helge. It has the word Pfennig on it, so she's starting to put together some of the clues there. And back with our man Killian in the alternate universe, they kicked him out of the dorm for potentially slipping a drug to them, so I guess that's what they've settled on, is like Killian, instead of like Mikhail disappears to like a potential like child molester or like kidnapper, Killian slipped a party drug to them at college, and that's why they got lost in the cave and ended up in the bunker and saw all these crazy things, which like that's kind of your classic like almost like, I think this show is pretty parallel to Stranger Things, where it's like Stranger Things are like, we saw fucking demons in the Upside Down, and they're like, shut up, you're just kids, and like they're teens, so they're like, shut up, you took MDMA or you took fucking hallucinogens and you're like tweaking out because Killian's at college. Of course, who's watching this but Jonas watches them part ways, so seemingly Killian and Martha are done, and we don't really see much Killian throughout the rest of the season. But yeah, I guess Killian's like the stand-in for Jonas, kind of looks similar to him, so it makes sense that Martha would be romantically attracted to him, but although they are done now. So in the alternate universe, Charlotte and Peter are actually on like decent terms, seemingly, besides her fucking cheating on him with Ulrich. But she confronts him about Helge. Helge is still Peter's dad, and Helge is at the police station confessing to something. He says he killed that child. Ulrich comes in and now says, Helge says it was him. So this probably references when Ulrich comes back into the past and beats the shit out of him. And Helge is referencing killing Mads. So Ulrich isn't as shallow as I thought before. He's pissed off over Mads and Mads' death, but because Mads appears in the bunker, okay, it's all connected to me now. A lot of fucking moving parts in this show, I'll tell you that much. But we're getting it. So of course Ulrich and Helge are at bad blood because Ulrich beat the shit out of him when he was a kid. Helge killed Ulrich's brother. Bad blood right there. So Jonas talks to Martha, trying to get her to get to the point of their meeting. So, yeah, I mean, this Martha's on a fucking speed run where it's like, you got to clock in, girl, because Jonas is already on level fucking 50, and you have to catch up and get to your fucking Eva state and know everything. So, meanwhile, back in 1883, or 18 something, Stranger Jonas puts the dark matter ball into the machine they made. It tries to form one of the portal things, but falls short, and then Martha disappears. She still had another one of the dark matters, of course, and then she travels away. So Martha saw enough. Eventually, they obviously will make the machine, but Martha's out of there because she uses the last dark matter. Meanwhile, present version of Martha goes with Jonas to the cave in our montage, so they're finally starting to travel over there. Martha's catching up to speed. Helge is rotting in jail. Ulrich is salty while Peter and Charlotte exit the police station. Obviously, some bad dynamics between them there. Hannah goes to do something, we don't know what. And Martha stares at the picture of Adam and Eve. So that's Eva who's staring at the picture of Adam and Eve. That's her pig picture that she just stares at the whole season. Meanwhile, traveler Martha reports back to Adam in 2052. So this was a bit of a twist and turn where you have this slightly older version of Martha, but she's now trying to help Adam in 2052. So she's Team Adam for a minute there, and he asks her, "Did you give it to him?" And then she says yes, while he is now working on the portal machine in 2052 or 2020. I forget which one of those they were in, but not particularly important. So Jonas and what I'm calling Yellow Jacket Martha, the present Martha, time travel to a desert as future her, a middle-aged Martha, welcomes her to the future. So my favorite from this episode was the new alternate version of Charlotte. I don't know, just everyone in this episode is being played by Eve and Adam, so give it to Charlotte, who's doing some detective work. It's Charlotte. I like her, so we'll give it to her. Least favorite is going to Adam. He had me in the first half, not going to lie. But if he has alternate universe Martha, it's not looking great for the team. I don't know. I just don't trust this motherfucker. So that's where we wrap up episode 3. Episode 4 is titled The Origin. We start this episode out with Trante walking near the cave, and he is approached by a man from the trio. I believe the middle-aged man, and he says he knew his mother. This guy does not have a name, which it's going to be a symbol, but he chose what to call Trante, so he chose the name Trante. He grabs the necklace and then dips. I don't know if this is the real version or the 86 version. I don't know what's going on, man. So, nonetheless, we're back in 1953 with our favorite character, Hannah, and she's ruined another one. She's banging 1953 version of Egan. I knew it. When she stayed in 1953, I knew she was up to no good. I knew she was going to fuck something up. It sucks. It sucks, man. I don't know what to say. It makes sense because people are going to shut on Egan. His fucking wife's going to shut him and make him fucking drink his ass off. She was fucking sleeping with another woman. She was sleeping with Agnes. So I don't want to hear it out of the wife. Doris, I don't want to hear it out of you later on because whatever. But cheating is not okay. But in fucking Wyndon, I guess everyone just cheats anyway. So major development between Egan and Hannah. That shit pissed me off, bro. I put in my notes, I knew this witch was up to something. He puts a pendant on her, so seemingly it's getting somewhat romantic there. Finally, we get the explanation of the pants down scene. Claudia is in 1953. They're teenagers at this time. She's talking about Trante's penis. Enos, Enos, Claudia, and Jana hang out, which is a weird trio of people, but Enos thinks that Trante is weird. I agree, he's weird and gives off bad vibes, so I'm Team Enos on that one. But, some teenage gossip there between the three girls. Moving along, we have Doris. She brings something to Egan when he gets home about Agnes leaving behind a towel / linen with initials in it. I don't know where this storyline ever went, really, if it's that important, but yeah, obviously Doris is pretty obsessed with Agnes, so her leaving causes the stir, causes the rift. And yeah, she's in a depression, but I guess that's a good thing to know that there's a towel with something left behind. I wish I wrote down the initials on the towel, but it's probably just Agnes or Noah's towel or something. So meanwhile, where did Agnes go? Where did she leave? Who's she with? She's on Adam's team. Which, yeah, I was Team Eva at this point, but it's hard to pick between both of them because they're both pretty flawed. So she needs to give the newspaper clippings to Claudia that indicate her her older self will get shot by Noah, and also that she's missing in 1953. Living is a gift, Adam says, I believe. And will he be the one to tell Martha about the origin? Just wait till we get the origin, man. Meanwhile, old Magnus shows up in 2052. He's talking to his sister Martha about leaving the materials to build the machine, and then 33 years later, he's giving the orders to build it. Yeah, so just weird stuff going on with the machine. I mean, this episode is one that just fucking melts your brain when you're thinking about everything that's going on with it, but Magnus is Team Adam, remember? Martha is on Team Adam as well, so they're trying to build that machine in 2052 or 2020, I believe 2052. So that's something to keep in mind as we kind of narrow down the teams and who's working for who. Meanwhile, back in 1953 with Hannah, she's fucking pregnant. Oh! So her and Egan do have a child together. This was my biggest, what if of the season, is who the fuck is this kid going to be? And it was kind of a disappointment when we'll get to it. But, yeah, I was like, Hannah is Jonas turned out alright, but I'm giving that to Mikael. I guess Egan's alright too, but I thought for sure this was going to be somehow it's going to be like Bartos or something. I don't know. I thought it was going to be weird. And Bartos is a bad example because we know who his parents are, but I don't know. Noah's parent, I thought it was going to be Noah, but I guess it was twins. I don't know. That was scary. And then it's funny seeing her in the office with the doctor, where the doctor's just openly smoking a cigarette. Obviously that would never fly nowadays, but in 1953 we don't give a fuck. So smoking, imagine you're if you're a pregnant woman or you have a wife or a girlfriend who's pregnant, and then you walk into the doctor's office and they're smoking a cigarette in front of you. That'd be pretty funny, but also pretty bad. So meanwhile, we spent a lot of time in 53 in this episode. So Helge's mother comes into Egan's office and asks him to find Noah. Obviously, Noah and Helge had that sort of weird connection in seasons 1 and 2, where Noah was the kind of one to get Helge back to Earth, seemingly calm him down, get him to talk because he was going mute, and then he comes in and prays with him. So Helge's like, you got to find Noah because he's the only one who can help my son. Meanwhile, Doris, still simping over Agnes, she walks into the church to see the nameless man there who just riffs with her. They have a nice little back and forth conversation. He clocks her for wanting to be with Agnes, which is funny just because he just is roasting her. He knows everything that's going to happen and is just grilling her. And then he also clocks Egan cheating, which really gets to her, and then she dips, where it's one of those things you just didn't think about at all was your husband, and he came home and didn't, I remember the episode when he was asking, do you usually have sex with your wife that much? Seemingly they weren't, getting romantically involved because she was with the other woman. But as soon as she finds out that he's cheating, that's gonna be the one that fucking drives her crazy. Sad stuff, man. Obviously, I'm not condoning Egan cheating. I think both of them are pieces of shit for that. But from Doris, it's a little far-fetched considering she was cheating with another woman. But she walks out of the church with a nameless man. So Jana, obviously, is going to end up with Trante in some capacity later on in life. She finds him just chilling by the lake. He says he likes to write stories. I thought that's a bit surprising because the Trante we know is just this psychotic motherfucker who just seemingly finds himself in like the worst place at all times. So yeah, I guess Trante does have a personality, and obviously this is like the start of their budding romance. Hannah tells Egan about the baby. He asks if it was his, which is a good grill. And she's like smacks him or something and gets pretty pissed off. I thought that's a decent question. She crashes out on him, but he handles it pretty well. Tells her to get an abortion, leaves her money to get an abortion. We know damn well she ain't getting a fucking abortion. But that's another scene. We gotta get some other scenes in here. The unnamed trio is back at it. They pull up to the leader of the coal industry. Now, this person in 1953 is very in opposition to the nuclear power plant. Believe they're going to be like fighting over resources or something. So it's like a kind of like a pseudo political battle between the leader of the nuclear power plant, the leader of the coal industry. That's kind of the dynamics of this thing going on here. So they make him sign the building permit for the nuclear plant, basically ceding power to the new person who's running the nuclear plant over the coal industry, having their building there. So that's got to be something important, right? Because that's the beginning of the nuclear power plant, which is viewed in the eyes of Martha, at least, to be the origin point. The nuclear power plant exploding, the apocalypse. So makes sense why those three would go after that. Meanwhile, so much happening in this episode. Jonas finds out there's no ways to save both worlds. He's sort of given an ultimatum. He can only save one, and then in that one world, everyone can live. Martha does not react well to this news. She runs away, and then Jonas confirms that what he was told was true. They can only save one universe. So Martha's on the run now. It's getting weird. Agnes decides to enter the portal in 2052 under the leadership of Adam. I couldn't really tell who that was entering the portal. Obviously, they were building that machine in 2052, so we assume it's Agnes. We know she's a Team Adam player. But yeah. Hannah don't need no man, she tells Egan in 1953, which is like probably a weaker time for women's sort of suffrage laws at that point. I mean, I guess they did have voting rights and everything. I don't know how it worked in Germany, but yeah, she's like, I don't need no man. Obviously, in 2020, women are empowered. It's great. But in 1953, not so much. So Egan's kind of like, okay, just take this money, get an abortion, or here's the name for an abortion. And I knew right away that was going to be capped. That there's no chance Hannah would ever get an abortion. An important character like Hannah having a baby, that shit ain't getting aborted. Come on, let's be real. So Noah is with the somewhat older version of Martha, kind of that middle ground Martha, middle-aged Martha. It's kind of the stranger version of Martha, but a little older seemingly. And yeah, this must be this universe's version of him, like he is to Adam in the other one. So each side potentially has a Noah on their side. Obviously, we were looking for Noah. Who's looking for Noah? I just mentioned it. Oh, in 1953 they're looking for a Noah, but that's in the other universe, so I don't know. It's weird. Noah maybe just be traveling between universes. I don't know. He seems like he's kind of on the upper echelon of the travelers, like he kind of knows what's going on. Meanwhile, Egan comes home to Doris saying she wants a divorce after knowing what he did with that girl. This is a classic. I mean, I called it trashy in my notes. I think that's a little bit mean, but she cheated first. Like, I get it. You're going to be crashing out because your husband's cheating on you. That's fucked up. But let's not act like you're like a patron saint of this all too. Like, you were cheating. You were fucking spending every second of your life with Agnes. Let's keep it a buck here, lady. I didn't like this out of Doris. I thought it was sad, man, for Egan. Like, Egan just has a fucking roller coaster of a life that just keeps going down, man. Like his relationship with Claudia, she disappears and then comes back and kills him. His relationship with his wife, she cheats first. He's like, maybe there is people out there who actually want to have sex with me and I want to be my wife, like Hannah, let's have a kid. But no, I don't want to have a kid, abortion. And then now his wife's like, I want a divorce because you're cheating on me. I wish at some point he finds out that she was actually cheating on him too. And I don't know if that'll happen or if that did happen, but hopefully he did, because Egan deserves peace, man. Meanwhile, Hannah, back in 53, is going to the abortion clinic name that she was referenced, and she meets Katharina's mother as a kid, and she says she is Katharina at the abortion clinic, which is ironic because Hannah just keeps calling herself Katharina in 1953. The younger version of Katharina's mom likes the St. Christopher necklace. Obviously, this is going to be an important piece later on. That is the piece or the necklace that they find in the sand, Jonas and Martha, in like 2019 before the apocalypse happens. And of course, Hannah does not go through with the abortion and leaves the necklace for, I forget her name, Katharina's mother. So that's where she keeps it, and then, things happen, and we'll get to there eventually. But that's where the origin of the necklace is for now. Adam in 2052 has got a picture of the unnamed trio that we've been dying to know who it is throughout the whole season. Martha is begging to know the origin and how to destroy it, and he says, "You will know eventually." Makes sense why Adam's holding this picture now after the later events of the episode. But we got a couple more steps to get there before we get there. So we get the classic end of the episode montage. Hannah grabs the machine and then dips, so we don't know where she's going to end up going. Martha and Jonas get it on as usual. Egan drank the whole bottle of alcohol. I don't think I wrote about it, but there was a scene, or I didn't talk about it, but there was a scene where Claudia and Tronte come home and Egan's just rotting in alcohol. He does becomes an alcoholic basically from that, and that's why we kind of see him kind of give up in life later on, and the police and investigating Maz and that type of stuff. So super dark path for Egan. Felt bad for him in this one. Tronte, or Doris, is crying over Agnes. So even after she gets the divorce, she's fucking crying over Agnes and the towel. It's like, girl, you're a hypocrite. Tronte still has weird marks on his arm. Those are never really explained either. And him and childhood Claudia get naked. They're like fucking 12. While Jana is reflecting on the bracelet. So eventually Jana will be the one to get Tronte in marriage and stuff. But I mean, it seems like Tronte and Claudia were just doing it a lot. So that's the end of that little montage. Meanwhile, in Martha's world, everything began. You were never supposed to stop the apocalypse. You were supposed to make the seed. So this is Eva talking to Martha. Martha is pregnant, and that is the origin, the beginning of the knot, and also the end. It's a sun, the origin, the infinite loop in the middle of the beautiful floor that has everyone's name and who they're connected to. Is it unmanned name? He looks at Adam and Eve. So unnamed man that I've been referencing this whole fucking time, aka Infinity Loop name, which okay, but that trio is the fucking son of Martha and Jonas. It's crazy, bro. That's when you're like, this show's fucking insane, man. Everything you've just watched is like, fuck, man, this show's fucking nuts. So yeah, the guy that's been walking around murdering people in cold blood and trying to help out Eva, which is weird because, well, I guess it makes sense because you have to choose either mom or dad. You'd probably choose mom in most case scenarios because people have love for their mother. But yeah, that's crazy, bro. That's these three fucking psychopath killers are all the spawn of Jonas and Martha. So great reveal to the end of the fourth episode, especially strong episode. A lot of stuff going on in this one. Favorite from this episode, didn't really have a favorite. Kind of like a low-key, I don't know who my favorite from this episode was. I give it to Martha. Gonna create the origin, I guess, so good for you. Least favorite is going to Jonas and Martha's son. Low-key ends the world, and he's been tying up loose knots the entire season. Once we figure out this, it's like, holy shit, bro. So yeah, that's where we'll wrap up episode 4. Episode 5 is titled Life and Death. So we start this episode out with Claudia burying the body of Regina in 2020. Obviously, Tronte just suffocated her. We saw her terrible reaction to it. I guess he had to somewhat do it so Claudia could go on her way, but tough scene. At least Regina gets a proper burial in this universe. So meanwhile, we have Adam. He's talking to Charlotte, asking, has she decided to help undo the knot? So I feel like there's some travelers that just join the teams that are so random, which we'll get to, including Charlotte. Obviously, Charlotte made it through the apocalypse, made it onto Team Adam, I guess. And Adam's like, are you ready? I guess she's been considering this whole season, and she's ready to clock in and help undo the knot. Meanwhile, alternate universe version of Katharina is planning on breaking Ulrich out, as we knew that from a couple episodes ago. She also wants to bring Mikkel with them. Ulrich apologizes to her for all of his indiscretions throughout the show. I mean, no, it's kind of ragging on the alternate version of Ulrich, but regular version of Ulrich in Jonas's universe is not the most, clean guy. He's done some bad things as well. Back in 86, we have 1986 Charlotte. She's going to speak with Tannhaus. So weird dynamic here where Tannhaus is sort of the quote-unquote grandfather of Charlotte, and I guess that's like who we are led to believe is the one to raise Charlotte throughout her life. But she doesn't really know her mother and father, which we'll get into that. So Tannhaus, his son and family died in a car accident, which will be very important for the finale of the show. And that same night, Charlotte was given to him, so they believe Charlotte to be the daughter of his son and family and wife. But his granddaughter was never found, and she was brought with the clock. So weird dynamic to, I guess if you're adopted, that's one thing, but it's like that's how your life began, how you begin to grow up. It's tough for Charlotte. Meanwhile, in the alternate universe, Charlotte, as a grown-up in the present day, is pressing Alexander a bit on his origin in Winden and the 86 shift schedules. So this is something that came up in the first season as well. Obviously, this initial investigation into the nuclear power plant makes Alexander look pretty sus when he's not willing to really show what's going on there. Obviously, he's hiding nuclear chemicals under the floor of the place, so that's why. But yeah, his origin in Winden doesn't really make sense either. We kind of know through season 2 in Clausen that he killed Clausen's brother and just kind of stole his identity and ended up here, and we kind of know that by him reading newspaper clippings and stuff. But Charlotte's starting to catch on to that stuff in 2020 in the alternate universe of New Martha. So I don't know. Alexander's kind of like a semi-villain. He's not ever like super relevant throughout the show, but he's always kind of just a background character that has involvements. Claudia, in 2020, finds another version of herself waiting for her. This version is on Eve's side. Jonas left residue that caused half-lives and the passage to continue. So yeah, that's why we kind of have our machine is, I guess, these half-lives. In science class, I never fucking knew what a half-life was. I don't know, it's like double the time, I guess. It's pretty hard to figure out. And I'm definitely not going to try and figure out all this time travel shit, but yeah, I mean, fuck it. Just like let it fly. I've only got a couple episodes left. Makes sense, half-lives create bullshit and nuclear power plants and everything and time machines. Meanwhile, Jonas realizes he's being played by Eve once Martha gets the scratch on her face and realizes they aren't stopping anything. They are maybe starting it. So maybe this is the origin of it all. Obviously, he wasn't in the room when Martha got the reveal that she's pregnant with his kid and the origin of it all. And is privy to the fact that she's playing him. And, he had this same sort of feeling with Adam. I don't know why he fell for the Eva of it all in this season, but once he sees that scratch, he's like, wait a second, you just scratched in the face with a knife. We're fucked, man. So, yeah, Jonas should have just kept being on Team Claudia. I don't really know what led him away from that team. Well, I guess there are versions of him out there that are, it's fucking crazy. The show's fucking crazy. There's like 6 alternate versions of him that some of them are on Team Claudia and some of them aren't. But yeah, Jonas now knows he is being played by Eva, so we'll see if he does anything about it. Meanwhile, back in 86, the season does actually a very good job of tying up most loose ends, including the origin point of Charlotte and Peter meeting. So Charlotte kind of steamed out of that meeting with Tannhaus. She was not happy with his answers. She doesn't know who her parents are. He doesn't know who her parents are. He finally told her the story. She was like, I'm now just old enough to hear the story when I'm like 16 or 17, and she's at a bus station about to get on a bus, but who walks off the bus? It's Peter getting off the bus in Winden for the first time. So we see him come into Winden. Obviously his dad is Helge, so he's going to see his dad. He mentioned that before. So this is the start of Peter and Charlotte's relationship. Meanwhile, back in 2020, Elizabeth, after disagreeing with Peter on continuing searching for Francesca and Charlotte, is coming home to the trailer that they took over from the prostitute, And yeah, this is tough for Elizabeth because like she's a kid, she's walking around every day. She's kind of has that negative, mopey attitude of like they're definitely dad. Like I don't know why we're wasting all this time looking for him. So they have a classic, or she has a classic crash out where it's like I'm gonna go home, do my own thing. I'm 12 and I know everything in the world. While Peter's freaking like Joel from Last of Us. He's out there to find those people. I mean, well, Joel's on a different mission, but like he's a very impassioned father looking for his wife and kid. You know, he's got his place, or he's got his people to find too. He's got his mission. Um, this scene got fucking crazy. So remember earlier in the season, Noah said Peter would die. When Elizabeth comes home, there's an invader in her house who knocks her out. And yeah, shit gets crazy real quick where she wakes up and he's about to rape her. Like, these people on these shows, man, why are you guys raping kids in the apocalypse? Like, you guys are fucking crazy, bro. It's so, it's a tough scene to watch. But luckily, Peter comes in and smashes him with cans to the head. They have cans of food, so he's like, bam, bam. But then Peter is stabbed in the neck, seemingly is going to, suffer a fatal wound here. But Elizabeth is able to smash the invader's face in with a fire extinguisher. And that was one scene where you're like, holy shit, bro. So this is kind of makes sense why now Elizabeth is like this crazy person in 2052. I don't even know if I want to say crazy. It's just like she's been through a lot of shit. She's hardened. Yeah, man, good for her for staying alive, killing that guy. Unfortunate for Peter, it was foretold that he would die, and he went out swinging, man. He fucking fought like a champion to save his daughter. So, all respect in the world to Peter on that one. But yeah, now we see the origin story of why Elizabeth made it out and Peter didn't, and we know where Peter's end is. Like, these timelines are starting to add up. We see who ends where and who begins where. We kind of see Peter's actually beginning point in the story and an ending point in the story in this back to back. I just realized that. So the nice little edit there where he's getting off the Boston Wind for the first time, introducing him to the Winden lore, and then he dies. The next scene by the invader getting stabbed in the neck. So Elizabeth is on her own for a couple of minutes, seemingly. We'll get into that. But back in 2052, we have the dream team of 2052 Elizabeth, Traveler Francesca, and Charlotte all embrace. So Charlotte, of course, being the mother of Elizabeth and Francesca, Elizabeth being the mother of Charlotte, and Francesca being somewhere in the middle of all that. They all embrace. They're all related. They're all family. So this is good to see them all back together. That was a nice scene as they let Elizabeth and Charlotte go into the portal under the direction of Adam. So 3 Team Adams right there. Seems like a lot of people are on Team Adam early on, but Eva will get her crew certainly down the road. Claudia needs to lead them. She is told, these 3 being Jonas, Noah, and Elizabeth. So there is a point in time in 2020 where it kind of splinters off to being Jonas, Noah, and Elizabeth. And, I always wrestle back and forth. My big 3 of this series was Jonas, Noah, and Claudia. Obviously now, after seeing everything, I would change it to Adam, Eve, and Claudia. But, yeah, I mean, that's a pretty dynamic big 3. I think Jonas and Noah is my number 4. Like, Noah's fucking crazy. Jonas is obviously number 1, most important. So Elizabeth probably top 10, top 5. So Claudia needs to lead them, and hopefully lead them to the promised land. She will. Martha asks Jonas what world he wants to save. So remember, they were given that ultimatum an episode or 2 ago. You can only save one world. And he decided long ago to save his own world, and then they make out again. So just the classic Martha and Jonas, at least in their story, they got to have love in this last season because, I mean, man, they're both going through the ringer. They're both going through a bunch of bullshit, being manipulated. So good for them finding love in a time like this. They're teenagers. They got to get their hands all over each other. Makes sense. Meanwhile, Katharina, which is a crazy fucking arc of this episode, she chases after her mom to find the key card. Obviously, her mother works at the place where Ulrich has been held up in the mental hospital. And she wants to free Ulrich, so she knocks her out with a rock. Or tries to knock her out with a rock, and then she's like, holy shit, I just knocked my mom out with a rock. Doesn't realize that she is now behind her with a rock, and now seemingly dies to the trauma to the head. So crazy. This episode was fucking crazy with just killings and shit. But Katharina, man, there goes Katharina. So we see why she's dead, killed by her own mother, which is like, I don't know, man. It's tough. These arcs are so sad. But yeah, Katharina is dead. So Helene is the mother's name of Katharina. She comes home after killing the future version of her daughter, and then talks to her daughter, which is another fuck scene where it's like Katharina as a teenager talks to her mom. Her mom just fucking killed herself killed Katharina in the future. Comes back home to her, doesn't realize it's her, but they're having this conversation. Katharina just asks if she's okay. While she asks if she's okay, Helene sees a hickey on her neck and just beats the shit out of Katharina. Helene's a piece of shit too. Fuck, man. It's like, wow. You just killed somebody and they're coming home and beating your daughter. I get it. You have like aggression and rage over that maybe, but it's like, damn. Some of these people, man. And I hate the fact that I'm trying to be equal because I did give Ulrich his crap, but like I feel like I'm hitting a lot of women and I don't want to be a woman hater. It just feels like the woman, man. Like Helene, Hannah, who was the other one I was ragging on? Oh, Doris. Like, come on, guys. I don't know. Am I being sexist? Let me know down below in the comments. So the necklace, of course, left behind by the future version of Katharina, is by the lake where Katharina will be buried and die. Also a flashback. Shout out to the people of the TV, or shout out to the people of the comments of the TV Time app. They reference, Bartos or Magnus said there's a dead lady in the lake, and sometimes on a clear day you can see her down there. So this is a reference to that when Katharina is actually dead down there, from 1952. And so yeah, that's the necklace that Jonas will find in the sand in the future. Ulrich, this is the montage now, waits like he is supposed to. No one comes. Tough ending for Ulrich, really. 86, Charlotte returns home after seeing Peter. Peter discovers the cabin while his future self lays dead. So, beginning and end of the story, it's beautiful, blah, blah, blah. Young Noah finds a young broken Elizabeth. So we see the beginning of their romantic arc right there. And Claudia reads up on what she is to do. So, final scene of this episode, we have Jonas and Martha. They're back in Eva's lair. Jonas is starting to realize he can't get back to his world. It's an apocalypse. He got transported here. And she tells him, your life ends here and now. There's 4 versions of Martha in this room right now. You have the present version of Martha who just made out with him. Slightly future version of Martha with the cut in her face, who did all the time traveling to the Tannenhaus place. Middle-aged Martha who we saw in the desert. And then Eva, so crazy. But the slightly older one who has the scar on her face shoots Jonas. Martha tells him she'll make it right. It seems like she's just shortly going to shoot him, and then does. Well, I lied about that way that all played out. So the slightly older version of Martha said that to him, I'm going to make it right, and then she's just going to shoot him and does. So we'll get sort of the context behind that in a couple episodes, but yeah, same thing that happened in Jonas's universe where Adam pulled up and shot Martha. And this one, Martha pulls up and shoots Jonas, the love of Martha's life. So it's like, fuck, man, we're stuck in a fucking time loop. Same shit's happening over and over again. People dying. So just in this episode, Jonas, a version of Jonas at least, Katharina, and Peter all dead. So sad stuff right there, man. Favorite of this episode, I'm giving to Elizabeth. Went beast mode when she had to and got revenge on that creep in the fucking trailer. Least favorite is going to Martha. Come on, what makes you kill Jonas? We don't even know what makes Adam kill Jonas. It's bullshit, man. I hate it. You're supposed to be together forever. We saw that so many times in the scenes of the opening episodes in season 2. Together forever as they banged. So that's where we'll wrap up episode 5. Episode 6 is titled Light and Shadow. We start this episode out with stranger Jonas remembers running into the basement after Martha was killed, which is the mind fuck of the year, because once you know that he remembers running to the basement, that opens the timeline for 6 possible universes, where you have the one universe where he is taken away by Martha, the one universe where he runs down into the cabin or into the basement, and then there's one more I forget, but we're fucked, man. There's no fucking following all this shit. So yeah, he remembers seeing the apocalypse running to the basement, so that's how he survived and how stranger Jonas came to be. He reads the letter from Martha, very deep letter. She tells him, you will make everything right. We all have to make sacrifices. You must untie the knot. The apocalypse must happen so I can live. They are perfect for each other. They always have to say that. Never believe anything else. And then Jonas burns the letter, and Adam puts the that version of, or a different version of Martha, because now we know that those four Marthas were in the same room together. So there's a different Martha working for Adam than the one that Eva has. So, there's fucking 17 versions of Martha. Nonetheless, Adam puts that version of Martha into a cage. So, back in Martha's universe, she knows about the apocalypse happening now, and she tries to tell her brother Magnus about it. But of course, this Magnus is tatted up. He's got the goth look. He ain't listening to no fucking societal woman like Martha. I don't know. But he's not taking it from Martha, which of course, Magnus is not, in my opinion, the brightest bulb. I'm surprised he ends up becoming a traveler. I think that's just due to happen circumstance, but nonetheless, Martha tries to tell him about the impending apocalypse, but of course, he does not listen to her and is just going about his day as normal. Meanwhile, Adam believes paradise is unending darkness where nothing existed. How the fuck is that paradise, man? Oh, Adam. Oh, Adam's got to get a grip, man. I'm still Team Eva over Adam. Like, Adam was heavily fucking misguided. How do you possibly think that dark nothing is everything? Like, I understand where you're coming from, but it's like, fuck, man. If paradise is unending darkness where nothing has ever existed, like, we're fucked, dude. We're actually fucked. And in this scenario, the apocalypse does need to happen in both worlds, so they can just get to the unending darkness quicker. So that's, as mentioned before earlier, he wants both worlds to end. Martha wants to at least one world to save, but or one world to stay, probably her own world. Eva wants that, but we see Jonas has different plans. Fucking itching in my leg. So, nonetheless, in the alternate universe, shit's about to go down real fast. Alternate Alexander is telling the truth to his son Bartos. So we finally get some answers on Alexander's storyline. Like I said, they kind of slowly wrap up a lot of the side characters' plots, which I did appreciate. No loose ends. So his name is actually Boris, and it was an accident what happened to the person that was killed. Bartos is like, dude, you're telling me this now, and you're kind of a piece of shit because you killed someone and just stole someone's name. Kind of like, no, that's a different, I was going to make a comparison, but it's not really a good comparison. But Bartos is like, dude, I'm not having that. And it's always tough to have those conversations, especially early on. And this is one of the last times we see Alexander, so tough look for blood there. But at least we know the story. His name is actually Boris. I kind of assumed he came from Russia due to the way he spells his name. I think it's Alexandr, no E. So you kind of assume Eastern European with that name. Nonetheless, alternate Charlotte is also going about. She makes a home visit to Ulrich. She analyzed those little pendant pennies that she found to be similar from, I believe, 2 episodes ago, and they're both the same one, which implicates Helge, her father-in-law. Helge is rotting in jail and is seemingly like awaiting trial or awaiting punishment, so it doesn't look great for Helge in this one. Meanwhile, Claudia in 2020 is about to touch the God particle, but Jonas comes in and tells her, stop. Okay, what version of Jonas is this? It's so hard to follow. Who's what Jonas? Who's what Martha? There's fucking 8 of them running around. But a version of Jonas comes in and tells her to stop. And we know now, we find out quickly this is the one who went into the basement and just didn't get sucked in by Martha, didn't die. So now he's here in 2020 helping out Claudia and tells her to not touch the God particle, which probably is a good idea. So Eve is talking about quantum entanglement. Worlds are always connected, and Jonas cannot stop his fate. Adam tried to, but can't. I mean, yeah, like I mentioned before, the first 2 seasons, in my opinion, is just like kind of like a straight line of everything just happening. Like, obviously, there's some fucking circles and divots and everything, but it's like, I think the timeline is just the timeline, man. Like, Adam kept trying to fuck with it, but the reason why it keeps happening and doing that is because you go back and kill Martha, So I think Adam didn't really understand what was going on. He was kind of just repeating the loop. He was trying to break the cycle, but he couldn't do it because he just is making the loop every time. So intellectually, I got Adam, then Eva, then Claudia. Prove me wrong. That's where I think they're at, but Claudia is kind of dumb at some points. But, be it as it may, she's the one who fucking solves the shit, not to spoil the last episode. Anyways, Claudia is going to help Jonas attempt to save Martha. So, of course, that is Jonas's main motivation for saving his world, is going to be to try to save his universe's version of Martha. Claudia's going to be on board with that. She's got Regina to save as well. Ulrich confronts Helge in the jail in the alternate universe. He said, Helge said he had to kill Mads and send him to the future to fill the gaps. He must stop him, and him is Ulrich. So maybe, I don't know who he was referring to by him, maybe Noah, but a little bit unclear. Helge as an old man is always very unclear because he's got some sort of like dementia, some sort of condition. So it's hard to really follow what he's trying to get into. But yeah, just more Ulrich and Helge beef going on there. Confirms the death of Mads, that he was behind it too. So, Ulrich's not going to be too happy about that. Meanwhile, Martha is visiting with Bartosz in the alternate universe, tells him everything about the apocalypse. He's like, no way, this is Cap. Let me call my dad, who just, I was pissed at a couple minutes ago. Calls Alexander, who doesn't pick up, but then he calls Charlotte, who maybe will be able to help a little bit. So same thing happens in this world as the other world, where Ulrich is chasing Helge in 1953. Alexander is showing Charlotte the nuclear material in the power plant, which would be the triggering event for the apocalypse. Charlotte and Alexander both being down there. Was Alexander down there in season 2? I believe he was down there in season 2. No, he was in jail or something. Anyways, basically when you go down and try and touch the nuclear material, that's what caused the apocalypse. So the apocalypse will happen in this alternate universe just the same as it did in the original universe. So Magnus and Francesca show up while Martha and Bartosz are biking to the plant trying to stop the apocalypse from happening. Pretty old versions of both Magnus and Francesca, I will say. They say to trust in Jonas. He knows where the origin is, which is complete cap. Adam/Jonas has had no idea throughout this whole show where the origin is. She has to go save him from his world. Martha does. Bartosz is one of the others and will be saved by them, so she ends up going with them as well. I don't know, man. It's hard to keep track of who's going with fucking who. But she does go with them at this point in time, joining the Traveler group in the alternate universe. So we get finally the teams of each leader of the Travelers. So obviously this whole season is based around the dynamic of Eva versus Adam and their dynamic. So Team Eva is the one where I'm like, where did these people come from? She's got Egan, which when was Egan ever a Traveler? I guess in the alternate universe, that's where he is. He's just a Traveler now as well. Claudia, Noah, and Bartosz with the younger two Marthas. And then Team Adam is Celia, Agnes, Francesca, Magnus, Charlotte, and Elizabeth. Yeah, I got Team Eva, bro. You got Egan? That's OP. No, we kind of knew Adam's team already, but this Noah and Claudia being a part of Eva's team at one point is a little bit weird, like different versions of them, obviously. And then Bartosz is kind of, Bartosz, but they got Martha's. They got Egan. I'm taking Team Eva. Who do you guys got? So, continuing on. Adam wants to sustain life cycle. He's trying to destroy the baby, so maybe he does know the origin, which is obviously in Martha's stomach at the time, so they're trying to figure out a way to get rid of the baby. He needs the power of both worlds in order to do so. This is the end, absolute annihilation, and then Jonas pulls the lever on the portal machine. Seemingly, I don't know, something will happen to Martha, but they're traveling away. All of Eva's travelers go where they're supposed to be in different timelines, trying to help out the cause in whatever way they're supposed to. Everything is happening just like it did in the other universe. Martha leaves the letter for Jonas, and he just burned it. So same sort of story going on there. And we find out Jonas and Martha's son was the one who made the nuclear material happen the way it did. Yeah, so they failed around with there, and the infinity loop is the reason why that nuclear material reacted the way it did, caused the apocalypse. So, safe to say they're trying to destroy shit as well. The son. Hannah goes into labor, but Egon is here to save her and help her out of her labor. He's been kicked out of his house with Doris, got to go back to the old girlfriend. Walks in at the perfect time to help save her and have the baby. Meanwhile, at the end of this episode, we have a semi-older version of Martha. She gets caught up in the portal thing. Seemingly something is actually happening to her as Francesca and Magnus observe the apocalypse in the alternate universe. So they don't make it out. They're just sitting there. Didn't listen to Martha. Should have listened to Martha. But, shit happens. So the apocalypse goes down in the alternate universe as well, and that's where we wrap up episode 6. So my favorite from this episode was Jonas. Just happy there's a version of him still alive, although I never really doubted that he was dead, or I never really believed that he was dead. Never doubted that there would be another version of him alive. Obviously, there's fucking like 17 timelines. Least favorite, I'm going Adam, which is crazy considering Jonas and Adam are the same person, but Adam just seems super misguided and wants everything to end. Like, he has no fucking hope for anything. So that's where we'll wrap up episode 6. Episode 7, the second to last episode of Dark, is called Between the Time. So we begin this episode with Schrodinger's cat. Now, if you're like me, you don't know shit about who Schrodinger is, and there's Schrodinger's whatever, or it's like Chekhov's gun. I don't know any of this stuff. Basically, the gist of it, someone can basically be alive and dead, and there are alternate realities where in one of them, Bartosz yells at Martha not to go in the house, and they travel somewhere. She's going to go and try and save Jonas again, but doesn't. So someone can basically be alive and dead. So yeah, as we know, there's fucking versions of Martha and Jonas that are dead, and some versions of them that are alive. Alternate realities. We're in fucking 6 timelines. I still haven't figured out the 6 timelines. This is all reading TV time comments, but yeah. So in one of the universes, Bartosz does go to Martha and says, "Don't go in the house." Maybe that's the one where Jonas runs into the basement. We don't know. Meanwhile, the old member of the Tannhaus family, he's going to give a little speech on morality. He's looking for a way for the dead to live again in between time. So knowing what we know now about the last episode, this is important for the Tannhauses, but a way for the dead to live again in between time. It makes sense, right? Because, all of our characters have a finite end. Like, Claudia has a finite end. Jonas and Martha have a finite end in their universes. They live kind of in between time. I think that's what we're meant to believe. So he's going to be looking for that for other people, but it's already kind of out there. We see Claudia get shotgunned by Noah in season 2. Martha gets shot by Adam. Jonas gets shot by slightly older version of Martha. So I believe we've already seen this. People living in between time. So, as we know, Elizabeth and young Noah together in 2020. They build towards the caves. It's been a year now. They're in 2021, so Elizabeth is now helping Noah. Obviously, we saw Noah kind of doing some work in the caves in 2020. Stranger Jonas had closed the passage in the original universe of Jonas. But now they're rebuilding it and trying to get the passage back open. And he's going to spew about paradise to her. So if we didn't have enough paradise for everyone on here, Elizabeth is now going to fall in love and be one of the other people at basically one of the puppets of the, I believe this is Team Adam, about paradise. Yeah, I think because young Noah's with Team Adam, but paradise is just fucking nothing existing ever. So I don't know how paradisical that is, if paradisical is even an adjective, but yeah, I mean, the Elizabeth and Noah relationship is still pretty strange to me, considering it seems like they have a wide range in age, but, who am I to judge? Bill Belichick and Jordan are dating. Meanwhile, Stranger Jonas is still working on that machine in 1880. His side plot has been that this whole time, basically. He hurts his arm doing this, and, of course, Bartosz is still upset it's taking so long for this portal to work. I mean, it's been 6 episodes, guys. Let's fucking get the shit together, right? They've been stuck there for 2 years, we find out. So they're probably in like 1890 at this point. And Stranger Jonas is also talking about paradise, which Bartosz is not too thrilled about. They now know that Stranger Jonas will become Adam, so this would scare me. And Bartosz, he's not really the most likable character throughout the series, but he kind of had the right idea here, where we'll see what happens to Jonas, but, I mean, yeah, probably should have been concerned, and he was concerned, so we'll see what happens. Meanwhile, Bartosz, after he storms out in 1890, meets Celia, and this is a weird combo of characters. This was the one storyline where I was like, all right, they just kind of threw this out there to tie up more loose ends, but okay, where Celia, we saw her in 2052. She was the one who was wondering with Jonas in season 2, like, what does this portal mean? And, she got in trouble from Elizabeth for walking out of the portal room, and, you're not supposed to be in that room with the portal. So, weird combo of characters there. I thought that was, like, super coincidental that those 2 characters meet. That's probably, like, my biggest plot gripe with the show, which obviously isn't that big of a plot gripe, so be it. But, yeah, now those 2 are going to be connected. because they met quickly. So meanwhile, Jonas walks away from Claudia doing experiments with the machine in 2020 and goes back to his house and hangs himself, or attempts to hang himself. And man, this was a tough scene where you really start to feel for Jonas. Like, he's stuck in this loop. He wants to get out. He doesn't want to fucking be doing this shit anymore, but he's basically forced to, because young Noah comes in to save him, gives him a gun, but it's not loaded when he tries to shoot himself. And as soon as Noah shoots the gun, a bullet goes. We find out from Noah that Jonas is too important to the timeline. He can't take his own life because time is preventing it. And it makes sense where, Jonas is the center, the origin of this whole storyline. So he can't kill himself. He needs to have the baby with Martha. He needs to do X and O. He needs to become Stranger Jonas in order to complete the timeline. So yeah, it sucks for Jonas, and we see how he becomes pretty like down and in the dumps. It's a sad turn, man. But we'll get there for sure. But yeah, this was a tough scene to watch for Jonas. And Noah is armed with the knowledge that Adam tells him that he and Jonas will be friends before Jonas betrays Noah. Obviously, we think we saw this play out in like early season 2 when Adam just shoots Noah after his time is done. But yeah, it's hard to be friends with someone when you know eventually they'll betray you. Meanwhile, back with Celia and Bartos, who just met fucking 10 seconds ago. She's already got a kid with him in the late 1880s. And they name it Hanno, which at the beginning I was confused. It's like, what does Hanno have to do anything? But then I'm like, Hanno is Noah. So yeah, Noah, just like, this isn't even that bad, because at this point we're just expecting fucking crazy shit to happen. So we now know that Celia and Bartosz are the parents of Noah, which is crazy because I thought it would end up being Hannah, who is the mother of Noah, and Agnes eventually, but I was wrong, where this seemingly, just to tie up a loose end, they're like, okay, like, I don't feel like we even need to know Noah's parents, but I guess it makes sense that it's Bartosz and Celia. So yeah, Hanno, Noah, is now entered the world in the 1880s. Makes sense. He grows up in 1921. He's semi-old. We'll probably, if you do ever do a rewatch of the show, you can go back and see him talk about his father. I believe also that opening scene of season 2, he is like building towards the wall, and he has to kill somebody. People are saying that's Bartosz. So that's crazy if that's true, but so be it. Moving on, Noah says not to trust Claudia to Jonas in 2020. Jonas says he still does trust her, but she's meeting with the alternate version of herself again in the different universe. Now this part was confusing me. So she's planning on keeping the knots up, but maybe that was the different version of her that said that. Like, this was a very confusing scene to me. And the older self told her, if all this works, our Regina will live, and then she shoots her alt dead. So her alternate universe version is dead. I have nothing to say. I really don't have much to say about this. This was just a super confusing scene. Where you have, alternate universe Claudia is just here, I guess, and now she's dead. We saw her before in the season, but yeah, I don't really know what that was about. If anyone could fill me in the comments on that one. So after she kills her, she pretends to be the alternate version of herself and fakes the conversation with Eva. Maybe this was the point of it, where you're now pretending like you look the exact same, you are the same exact person. I think she took the clothes too. So she's pretending to be her alternate version of herself, has a conversation with Eva, acquiring the schematics for something she has to put in Tannhaus's hands. So this is probably the schematics for the machine in 1880, get it to build, to get the timeline going. So I guess it was worth it to kill yourself or kill an alternate version of yourself to get these plans in order to fulfill the timeline. But yeah, it's just a super weird sequence of events, in my opinion. So nonetheless, still on with Bartosz. He comes home and Celia is dead. Yeah, super sudden, where, we see them meet for the first time. The next time we see them, they have a kid together. The next time we see them, she's dead from when he comes home. She had another baby and wanted to name her Agnes. So there's your answer. It's Noah and Agnes. Our parents' mother is Sylvia. And so yeah, he's the father of both Noah and Agnes, which is crazy considering the actions that Agnes, I think Agnes is the one who ends up shooting. No, I think it was, I don't know. It's just, everything's fucked up, man. Everything's fucked up. But now we know they're the parents of Noah and Agnes. So Noah is talking to Elizabeth in 2020 once again about paradise, but their baby is stolen by Traveler, Charlotte, and Elizabeth. Noah gets pissed off with Jonas and wishes him endless suffering. He thinks that it's Jonas that stole the baby, which, like, why would Jonas steal the baby? He presses him, and he says he will find her and bring her to us. He promises to Elizabeth. I don't know why you would, like, Jonas wants to fucking die and get off this earth. He doesn't have time to steal your baby. He doesn't give a shit. But I guess it's hard to predict that, like, a future version of your daughter and, like, I don't even know how to describe it, man, because that whole the Charlotte and Elizabeth thing just throws me for a loop every time, where it's like she's the daughter of her but also the mother. Like, I'll never understand that one. Well, I'll understand it, it's just hard to describe. So the big moment of this episode, the saddest moment, I mean, I hate this character, but it's pretty sad to watch this happen. So Hannah has decided to show up to 1880. She speaks with an aging Bartos, and her daughter is Celia. So I think we know all the parents now. Celia's mom is Hannah. Celia and Bartos are the parents of Noah and Agnes. But I was like, oh god, I mean, I guess there's some sort of a resemblance there, and the way the actresses look. But she's here now to talk to Jonas. Obviously, this is a very different version of Jonas. He's staring at the picture once again. It's a younger version of Adam. He looks scary as fuck and menacing, staring at that damn pig picture. He clearly doesn't want anything to do with Hannah and Celia, which is crazy considering that Celia's his fucking sister, Hannah's his mom, and we don't ever see like we as the audience hate Hannah, but as like a parental relationship between Hannah and Jonas, we don't really see anything that's wrong in between them. Like, it seemed to be somewhat smooth sailing between those two, so it's a little bit surprising that, you know, Jonas doesn't care initially at this. It's like, okay, he must really have gone rogue, but when you see him, he's Adam. It's like, he's no chance he's fucking caring about this shit. So he gets them a room to stay the night. Hannah and Celia, 2 beds separate apart, shows up in the middle of the night and suffocates Hannah. What the fuck, bro? He's like, you're not where you're supposed to be. He's like fucking moving pieces along the chessboard. Adam's an evil motherfucker, bro. Adam is one evil motherfucker, like, killing your own mom. It's crazy. I mean, we've seen people kill their own daughters and shit unintentionally, though. They don't know it's their daughter. Like, Adam's fucked, bro. And we kind of get the gist of why Adam is the way he is, because he just can't get off this earth. So he's like, I have to fucking put the pieces in place, whatever. He's like, Celia has a use, so she doesn't kill her. But come on, man. I don't know. I hate Hannah, but this is the way she dies. I thought that was pretty sad. Yeah, he says you're not in the right position, and then he kills her. Hard stuff to watch, man. Seriously. Meanwhile, Noah comes to Adam to find Charlotte. He needs the last pages of the book to find Charlotte, and Helge will help, so just getting random help from people now. Old Claudia tells Jonas to inspire his younger self to break the knot as she removes some of the pages from the book. So this is kind of just like filling in the missing pages that we have as the thing. So there's the storyline with the book earlier in season 2. Remember, Noah needed those pages, so here are the pages. That's why he thinks he needs them to get Charlotte. Makes sense in the grand scheme of season 2 and stuff. So we get our montage at the end of the episode, or near the end of the episode. It's all the big events happening again for the big time travelers, Jonas, Claudia, and Noah. Basically just running through their entire importance, you know. I don't know. Meanwhile, Martha has made it back to Eve's lair. I think she was there all along, actually, but Eve stabs her across the face, so she never forgets what side she's on. That's why she has that little scar under her face. Eve is choosing life, and Adam is choosing death. I mean, at this point, you kind of have to agree with that, although I don't necessarily agree with Eva and everything she stands for. She's at least wanting to preserve one of the fucking universes where Adam just wants everything to turn to dust, and that's a definition of destiny. Or paradise, sorry, paradise, not destiny, but, like, I'm on Team Eva, bro. I've still been Team Eva up until this point. So the last part of this episode, Adam sends Martha away to the portal hurricane. So, you know, we kind of saw that Martha there, but at this point he has her strapped down, sends her into the portal, as he seems actually somewhat jarred from this. So, you know, Adam doesn't really show a lot of negative emotion, doesn't show a lot of emotion at all. But him being, like, somewhat taken aback by this was pretty surprising. And then as he does this, the old woman Claudia pulls up on him. So hopefully Claudia is able to save the day on us, because Claudia seems to be the only reliable character, besides maybe Eva. But of the big three, Adam sucks and just wants everyone to die. So that's where we wrap up episode 7. One more episode to go. My favorite from this episode is Claudia. I feel like in the grand scheme of things, she's probably the one trying to do the actual best thing. Called it. Least favorite is Adam. I'm a big... I'm as big of a Hannah hater as anyone, but suffocating your mom is crazy. Yeah, Adam, dude, get a grip, bro. Holy shit. So that's where we'll wrap up episode 7. The 8th episode in season 3 and the final episode of Netflix's show Dark is titled The Paradise. We begin this episode just like we began the first episode ever. It starts with Mikkel killing himself. Yeah, I mean, thinking back on it, that was a crazy first scene to watch for an entire series, but we get the rehashing of that, and it's tough to watch Mikkel do that. We see the kid Mikkel a lot throughout the series. Hate to see it. So while this is happening, Claudia says that she is here to end Adam's journey, which we do find to be factually correct by the end of the episode. Both Adam and Eve's world should have never existed, and there is a third world that gave birth to not a single mistake was made. So this episode's kind of like a one-off story, but I think it does wrap up the story in the show very well. To be honest, it's kind of a different thing that you'd expect from a finale, but I feel like they ended it the right way, which we'll definitely get to. So a single mistake was made by this third world. Obviously, 2 worlds kind of doesn't really make sense. Always everything comes in threes, as my coworker said the other day, but Tannhaus destroyed and divided his world, making 2 worlds. So the original Tannhaus with the glasses that we've been following all along, we've been kind of wondering his importance. Turns out he's the fucking origin of this thing, which we'll get into. But yeah, man, he was chasing ghosts, and it didn't work. But luckily people are here to save him. So Eva says everyone must die to be reborn correctly. Like, you were on a good path until the first 7 episodes, but now everyone must die? Why are both these people just evil? Like, people can live, and, we can have these alternate universes in harmony, but... Fuck yeah, man. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. They fucking travel the world and fucking rule this shit, I guess. Martha meets her son. Yeah, you might want to throw that baby out, because those trio of men are scary as fuck. And then we see the rationale for why she shoots Jonas. We saw the semi-older version of herself, which is her now, come out and shoot Jonas. So Eva kind of explains to her, like, you have to do this because, I forget the reasoning, but that's why. Sorry, it's been a minute, but I don't know. I guess you have to do the timeline. I think it's for the emotion and no emotional ties, and also that like drives the Marthas to want to continue on with their journey. So meanwhile, we see Claudia telling Tronte to kill Regina quickly so she doesn't suffer. So I kind of alluded to this early on. It makes sense that Claudia needed Tronte to kill Regina because Regina was an emotional connection keeping her down from discovering the real shit. So when she kills her, obviously she's not going to kill her herself. She has Tronte do it, so we see the reasoning behind that. Makes sense now. The slightly older version of Claudia tells her to do that. Makes sense. And Regina will always die in both worlds, unfortunately. But remember from a couple episodes ago, Claudia said our Regina will live. So we'll see what happens. But every step taken as it always was. So really, yeah. I mean, like, y'all can look back at my podcast. I was like, there's only one timeline. That's all that really matters. Like, everything's going to happen the way it was because the way that it was is the way that it happened. So that's like, that has to happen. It's kind of hard to wrap your brain around, but once you like, just keep it simple. You're like, if that happens, then that has to happen again. So that's always been my kind of theory on the show. Like, they don't overcomplicate it. So I thought that was pretty much the case. There is just one thing they need to reverse, though, and they'll be okay, which we'll see if they get to do that. But every step taken as always was, your boy called it. We see in both worlds Ulrich beating the crap out of a kid version of Helge, except in the other world, old Helge doesn't die in the car crash, stopping himself in 1986. He kills Ulrich. So he comes back to 1953, the alternate version of Helge, and kills Ulrich in cold blood. I'm not against it because I didn't really like this version of Ulrich in the alternate universe. I kind of mentioned that earlier on, but he can go. Like, also, when we find out at the end of the episode, it's like, none of this even mattered, really. But, yeah, so old Helge's out for vengeance. Good for him. He figured it out and got it done. Claudia instructs Adam to send Jonas on a different path to end this once and for all. Interesting, considering, Adam's been on his wave about turning the universe into dust. Eva's been like, let's save one universe. Actually, you need everyone to die to be reborn. But Claudia is actually able to somewhat like speak to Adam here on a like decent level, and he goes back to pick up Jonas right after Martha dies. He needs to save the other Martha before Magnus and Francesca take her and make her a traveler. Remember with the scene of Martha and Bartos trying to get to the nuclear power plant before the apocalypse, and then Magnus and Francesca pop up and tell them to come travel with them. Jonas needs to go back and grab her, make sure that doesn't happen. That'll help prevent something. So he grabs her in the interaction, and they make it to the original world. So everything is all set on that end. I'm not sure why specifically they need to do that, but I guess it's a different path than the original, which Claudia needed. So it's going to help Claudia out there. Adam in Eva's lair burns her pictures of Adam and Eve. So we saw that Adam's picture had been burned eventually down the line, his pig picture. So he gets kind of a revenge here where he's burning her pictures. But we did see in the desert kind of setting that those pictures would be burned. So this wasn't the biggest surprise. He pulls up with a gun on her, but the chamber is empty. The first time it has happened like this where he doesn't kill her. So Eva knew this was coming. She's like, you always kill me in this scenario, but the different path has been taken now where Adam pulls up and the gun is empty and doesn't kill her. So the timeline is working. Something is happening where what always happens doesn't usually happen. So the knot is finally being broken a little bit, which is weird that she knows this happens. I don't know how you know your death. I guess she travels into the future and knows, so maybe that's why. But yeah, so Adam was supposed to kill her. Gun's empty. Something's changing. Something's a brewing. Meanwhile, we see Tannhaus initially open the portal, and there's going to be a bridge between the three worlds within that strict time period. Adam and Eve finally put down everything and embrace with each other. Jonas is on an interdimensional plane or some shit. This was like some 100 shit, to be honest. I didn't mind it, but it was like, okay, I guess that's the bridge they need to go on to get to the third world. Makes enough sense. And so is Martha. So it's weird where they both see a kid version of themselves. Martha's like opening her closet and seeing Jonas, but Katharina is right there with her and is like, what are you talking about? I don't see anything out there. She's like, I see a boy with a yellow jacket. And then he, as a kid, sees it. Mikkel's like, what are you talking about, dude? Yeah. And they still don't see it. But they use the time travel bomb to go somewhere. I'm stressing. I don't know why. So we see the before about Tannhaus, his story, why he built these time machines, what happened. So we know his family got in a car accident. We meet his son. Merrick is upset that he knows nothing about him, so they drive home. Merrick is with a significant other, and they have a baby. And so when Merrick and his father get into a little bit of a disagreement, he takes the baby and the wife, makes them drive home in the rain. Except this time, they don't crash because there's two random motherfuckers standing in the middle of the road, that being Jonas and Martha, and they swerve once Jonas and Martha teleport to the middle of the road. And their thing to tell Merrick is that the bridge isn't open, so that would make him turn around and go stay with his dad again. They also tell him his father loves him, and Merrick goes for it. Wow. And the baby is named Charlotte, so maybe that was Charlotte. Somehow is saved by the people and passed along. The baby thing, I don't, it makes sense that, so they were killed in the family, or they were killed in the car accident, then somehow Charlotte survived, and then they just dropped him off at Tannhaus's door, I guess. But I don't know, because we also see Elizabeth and Charlotte grab the baby from Noah and Elizabeth in 20-something. So I don't know the origins of Charlotte's story, but it happens. So yeah, now Merrick actually goes for it. He believes that they are angels and they were sent from above. That's why they intervened and told him to turn around and go back, and the bridge isn't open. So he goes for it and goes back home, embraces with his dad, and this is the event that changes everything, because now Tannhaus doesn't need to build a time machine. There's no two alternate universes. It's just his one world. So kind of a sad moment here where Jonas and Martha realize that after they sent Merrick to turn around, they won't exist anymore after setting back the time. So unlike Severance, that is just milking money, sorry, but they know that this is it, and they did the right thing to stop all this madness, and there can just be one linear world now. But that means that they will never exist because without Charlotte, I mean, I'm trying to. Obviously, if there's no alternate fucked up universe, then Mikkel never goes back. Jonas and Martha never have the baby. Um, Hannah does something else. Everyone's tied in by one loop. Basically, we'll find out at the end who's still there. Um, but yeah, they don't exist. I don't know why Martha wouldn't exist. I said that initially. Thinking about it, Ulrich is the son of Tronte and Yana, which Tronte wouldn't exist because Tronte is heavily alluded to be someone else's kid. Or no, he's the kid of Agnes, and Agnes without basically everyone who's made through the passage of time doesn't exist. So going back to the beginning, Bartosz and Celia time travel, but they would never meet because Bartosz wouldn't time travel to 1880, and neither would Celia. So hence that brings their whole family line down of Noah, Agnes, Charlotte, Elizabeth, etc. Ulrich time traveling. Well, Tronte is the son of Agnes, so without Tronte, you don't have Ulrich, you don't have Magnus, you don't have Mikkel, you don't have Martha. So it's a whole loop here where, like, Charlotte, you don't have Francesca, you don't have Elizabeth. It's crazy where now all these characters are just gone because they never existed. Obviously, Jonas doesn't exist either. But Jonas and Martha are the first to disappear. And then Jonas says the line about being perfect for each other as they turn to dust. So kind of like an Avengers Infinity game ending where they just turn to dust. I don't want to like simplify it to that, but graphically that's how it looks. Adam and Eve start turning into dust as well, so they get their proper ending as well. I don't think either of them should have won. They're both corrupt in their mind, so I was glad to see them die, aka just become nothing. Stranger Jonas turned into dust as well. Middle-aged Martha and the writing on the wall is gone. Claudia disappears as well, so Claudia wouldn't be a thing because I don't know. Claudia is Egan's daughter, but I guess I guess all the versions themselves in that universe would go anyway, because both those universes are done anyway. So all that oversimplifying I just did are done anyway, where alternate version that we met in this season of everybody would die, and then initial version of our universe that we know from seasons 1 and 2 would die as well, because now it's just one world where that doesn't happen. None of that stuff happens. So Claudia is gone too, but she served her point. Queen solved this whole thing, undid the knot, and made the world whole again. So we get to the last scene where we meet our characters. I believe I'm gonna actually. This is bad podcast. Let me pull up who's actually here at the end because I didn't write it down. So we know Hannah's there, and she's with Wooler now. Wooler's, I don't know the gender of the person, the prostitute, is there as well. Regina is there, so that implies that Regina's father is not Tronte, it's somebody else. Wooler, Hannah, Katharina is there with Peter, and so it's the 6 of them at the end, which is like crazy that you can only really come down to 6 characters to end this thing out, that weren't affected by any of the other, shit that happened. So yeah, it's just the 6 of them having a nice dinner party. We finally learn what happened to his eye. Oh no, we don't. There's a huge thunder and lightning, so that was a fucking major troll by the show. Good job. Hannah has Deja-Vu about the world ending, which seemingly that seems like that's when the 2 other worlds did end. So their third world just continues on and is nice and happy timeline. And of course, she is also pregnant with Wooler's kid, and she is thinking about naming the baby Jonas, and that's where we end. I thought this was a beautiful ending. I don't think we needed some like crazy next level shit to happen. Like they really just simplified it for us at the end, made it easy to understand. I don't mind most of the characters dying, because it's like they were so fucked up. Like you're gonna come back and like Mikkel is gonna live again and be with his parents again after fucking time traveling in 1986. Like none of that stuff makes sense. So I really like this ending. I think they landed the ship pretty well, to be honest. I'm not sure how they could have even improved on it. I thought it was pretty well done. The ending, made sense, was coherent, felt good. So I really enjoyed the ending of the show, to be honest. Even though those characters at the end were not my favorite characters, especially Hannah. Catherine was always kind of middle tier for me, but we'll see on my character tier list who ends up where. So that's the end of Dark season 3, guys, and the end of the Dark show. Great show. Like I said before, it's top 5. We'll get into that in a second. So favorite of this episode is Claudia. Cooked and solved everything. Masterful work in preserving Regina as well. She did say our Regina will live, and her Regina did live. So least favorite of this one, not really many to choose from in this episode. I'll say Eva was last to realize what the actual knot was, and still made herself shoot Jonas in this episode at the beginning. There's Dark season 3, man. This is probably, I don't know, I think I like season 1 the best just because it's like fresh and original and it's like so many whoa moments, even though it's kind of split on the Jonas twist. But season 1 had a crazy aura to it. Season 2 and 3 are just kind of like, they're really good as well, but it's like we're kind of diving into like not random, but like next level shit that I'm like, okay. But season 1 was simple. The twists were good. I like the 3 different timelines was more clear. By the time you're in season 3, you got to be fucking locked the fuck in, which I always was locked in on the show because it's the German subtitles. But I got this show number 5 all time. Maybe one day we'll do my top 5 or top 10 of shows, but I love this Dark show. Shout out to the friend who recommended it to me. I recommend everyone to check this one out. Even though you just sat through 2 hours of me talking about it, so you know everything that happens, but I really did enjoy the show. So that's where we leave off Dark. Next thing coming from Dark will be the Dark tier list, and then after that it's Dust. It turns to Dust just like they did in Dark, but if there's ever anything else that comes up with Dark, I'll probably cover it on the channel. And what else? If there's ever a top 10 or top 5, be on the lookout for maybe Dark joining that list. So that's where we wrap up Dark episode or season 3 recap. Dark, we got a playlist, season 1, season 2, season 3. Beautiful show, loved it. Really glad to have watched it, so I recommend everyone to go check this one out. And as always, be easy, y'all.